Today we're going to learn a basic lesson about economics, but if you have taken economics before, it's going to be very simple for you and you might be able to help with teaching the lecture as well. And as Rena said, we recommend taking notes. And yeah, so we're going to go through what economic is, why it is a problem, also how the 7 principles, and yeah.
So we listen to your suggestions and concerns and what people are expecting from this club and what more you guys would like to add. So Amy and I decided to teach a lesson on the intro of economics this meeting. We might continue this later. We might go back to our original discussion based. We might combine both. It all depends on how this goes and how much you guys like it. So at the end of the voting session, other than voting, we'll also do a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 of how much you like this type of learning and teaching. So we'll base off our future decisions off of this.
So today we're going to essentially talk about what is economics, and it's a problem. So why do you guys think economics is a problem as a whole?
Is it because it fluctuates a lot?
Partly, yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's one good point. This can go anywhere, so anything you say won't be wrong. This can really go anywhere.
Economics is a problem because of scarcity. And we've mentioned this before. So there is not enough of what you want, and definitely not enough of what you need. So therefore, economics is a problem. And the essential point for economics is solving the problem of scarcity. And what is an economy? What is a economy? And the official definition would be the system used to manage the limited resources, which is scarcity, available to the population, and meaning the production, distribution, and consumption. So those are the limited resources we have. And now we know the definition of scarcity, we can go into details about other parts of economics. Okay. So I'm going to move on. If you have any questions, just raise your hand whenever, okay? So then there are resources and consumers. We are consumers, the people who buy the resources, who want the resources, and who needs the resources. And the resources are anything used to produce or make an economic good or service, and that comes to good and services. So a good is a physical product, and a service is counting in as human capital. Human capital is a type of service, and we've talked about this in our college necessary meeting as well. So this is the definition of resources and consumers. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Yeah, so basically resources are the things we want, the things that is outside, and consumers is us. We want the resources, right, Amy? That's the basic.
Yeah, resources are people's wants and needs, and mostly wants. And when we further develop this, we will learn that a want is a way of expressing a need. So the goods and services, I talked a little bit about that with the definition of resources and consumers. So goods and services, goods are items that are economically useful or satisfy the economic want. So say we're all using a laptop or a phone or an iPad right now. These are all goods that we want, that we use. That's what made us buy, and it satisfies our economic want. And they're tangible and can be classified as consumer capital and durable and non-durable. So we're going to talk about that later when we talk about microeconomics. So goods
Amy.
are economic ones.
Yeah, just one thing to add on. So goods are tangible and services are untangible. Tangible means physical things that you can touch, like a water bottle, a phone, those are goods. Services are untangible, it's untouchable. Those are the things that you buy online, like online services, apps, Instagram, or you pay for a membership, or this nonprofit organization is an online service, is untangible, untouchable. When we were preparing the lesson, we were saying, are there anything other than goods and services? Any other products other than things you can touch and things that you cannot touch that are products you can buy? Can you guys think of anything? There is one specific thing that is right in between these two categories. Okay, let's know NFTs are non-fungible token. It's really hard to explain, but they're digital arts and they're not goods or services. When you buy them, they don't serve you anything. They don't give you any benefits. They're not physical, so you cannot touch them. So they're neither goods or services. They're kind of right in between. Different people will say different things, but that's one interesting thing that you can think about. Does anyone have any questions about the differences between goods and services and how they relate to the economics?
Yeah, and just in addition, services are often unique skills and there are different levels to services.
Let's relate to what we learned before. So as we said, economic is the problem. What is a problem? Scarcity problem, the scarcity of limited resources. Scarcity is a problem. And what is scarce? What is scarcity? Goods and services. No, I mean resources and consumers. Resources are limited. So resources, what is scarce are the resources. And what are resources? They're good and services. So everything just connects. Do you want me to repeat again? So economic is a problem. The problem is scarcity. What is scarce? Resources is scarce. There is a limited amount of resources. And what is resources? Goods and services. Resources are the things consumers want. We are consumers and we want goods and services.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. And goods are tangible, services are intangible. Tangible is actually an SAT word, so you might want to learn it or jot it down in your notes. Tangible means physical things you can touch, and that's an SAT word. Goods and services are resources, and resources are scarce, they're limited resources, and resources are the things that consumers want. And because there's a limited resource, there's a scarcity problem, and scarcity problem is economics.
That's correct. Okay, so I think we've done a lot of explanation on that. Why don't we go to the next one?
Will we think about this and how we can apply this to the real world?
But what would be a topic that we want to talk about surrounding like goods, services, and resources and scarcity? Okay, why don't we relate to a current situation? So remember when COVID first started and everyone was running to the supermarket to get toilet papers, toothpaste, everything? Yeah, so how did you experience that scarcity of resources in your country or your city? Anyone can go ahead. Yeah, Hannah.
Right now, I know in Australia, like the COVID test kits, there is a limited quantity of them, so they can sell for one of them can sell for like upwards of $100. So if there's scarcity of supply, then the price will go up. That's just the rule of supply and demand.
Yeah, rule of supply and demand. And so when there's a surplus, the price goes down, and then where is the over, then the price goes up.
Yeah. Do you guys know why inflation are caused? why are inflation caused? How does inflation relate to what we learned today? Hannah, yes.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why inflation happens, but the most important thing is money printing. How the government prints a lot of money to help the consumers and the general public, but it can also hurt the economy.
Yes, the bigger picture to the outside world seems like, yes, the printing of money, that is one of the biggest costs. But what caused the government wanting to print money? To help the poor, right, Hannah? To help the poor.
Yeah.
Why going to help the poor?
Because the rich people won't give us or pay the taxes that the government wants.
Yes, because the poor people cannot afford the things that they want. The poor people, the poor consumers cannot afford the goods and services that they need. Well, we learned, right? Why can't they afford the goods and services?
Because there's a limited amount of sources, outside resources. And resources are not always things that you buy with money, but rather, a land is resource. But right now the earth is this big. It cannot expand, it cannot, get smaller. So when all the land, all the resources are bought and used with and invested with those who got into the market priorly, there are less opportunities and less resources left for those of whom that jump later into the market. And that's what created this social economy, that there are different stages of people.
Yeah. Okay, so back to what we're talking about, we were saying that because poor people cannot afford the goods and services that they need, the government need to print money to support them to get the goods and services. Now, because the goods and services are limited resources, if the poor people can afford the goods and services, so does the rich people can. If everyone can afford them, but it's limited, so the market people are going to raise the goods and services price up so that the poor people, again, cannot afford it. Raising the goods and services price up is the main cause of the inflation. And that relates to everything we've learned before. What is economics? Economic is a problem. What is a problem? Scarcity.
Scarcity.
Yeah. If you don't want to speak, you can just type in the chat, spell scarcity. Okay, what is scarce? What is scarcity? Why, what is scarce?
The resources. We have limited resources, whilst our ones are like infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what is resources?
Goods and services.
Goods and services. Who wants the goods and services?
Everyone.
Yes, everyone wants goods and services. The consumers wants the goods and services. Because everyone wants it, but the poor can't afford it, what did the government do?
Print off more money to give to the poor people so they can afford it.
Yeah. Okay. Now that everyone can afford it, but the goods and services are limited, what did the market do?
They
Raise the price.
raise the price.
Yes. Okay, that's very good. They raised the overall price. And after raising the overall price, what happened?
The poor people go back to not being able to afford it.
Yes. And now, what happened to the value of money?
Increased. It deviated.
Yes, it decreased. And what's the overall result?
Inflation.
Inflation. Okay, I think everyone understands the concept of inflation now, the complete concept, right?
Right.
Okay, and I think that's the overall goal of this class, is a very, very, very beginning intro of economics. So I think we can make this class really fun and engaging if we keep doing it like that. And does anyone have any questions on inflation, the intro of economics, goods and services, what they specifically are? If you're confused, please ask, so then the lessons will be easier in the future. So economics is a huge topic, and economic is divided into two separate routes, micro and macro. Okay, Amy, why don't you go on to teach what?
Okay, so the broad term of economics comes down to two, micro and macroeconomics. And if you have studied the English language, you might know the root micro represents small, and then macro represents big. So that's just the two English roots. And that's what is put in front of economics. So micro and macroeconomics. So microeconomics, small economics, is economic decisions made within a family, individuals, or businesses. They're very small. Business, although some can be big, they're small decisions that doesn't affect the whole entire economy, right? So that's microeconomics, small. But then macroeconomics is big, something that affects the economy or big parts of the economy. So those are usually the workings of the entire economic system as a whole, like government decisions and nationwide decisions or even worldwide decisions. Those are macroeconomics decisions. And these are just a brief definition of what they are. And I think we're going to study micro first and then macro, because micro is what we can really relate to, such as, family, business, and individual. And especially if you want to become an engineer, entrepreneur, or start your own business, or, just in school or making your own decisions. Those are all micro. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any? Okay, Rena, go ahead.
Yeah, as Amy said, we're going to study micro first. Micro includes personal finance, which includes banking, tax, all interesting topics relating to personal finance, everyday life. Also kind of includes inflation, but inflation is more in the macro. And, after learning every detail of micro, which we're going to learn first, economics, you're basically your financial literacy is basically going to be the same level or maybe exceed your parents. Yeah, not only we're learning about economics, we're also improving our vocab. Amy and I are currently studying for the SAT, so we're also learning these roots, which are going to be very helpful. Okay, does everyone understand what's the difference between micro and macroeconomics and what they target? Can someone give me the definition of microeconomics in chat or talk?
Yeah, it's just very simple. You can say, oh, this is this and that's that. One word might cover all. Anyone can go. Zara.
So microeconomics involves small decisions, which means decisions within families and businesses, which includes banking, tax, and personal money, pocket money, things like that. And macroeconomics means big decisions, which include states, countries. The overall meaning, the thing that really matter, make the difference.
Yeah. Amy, do you want to read the chat?
I was just going to comment on Zara's. I think that's a very complete definition, and you took amazing notes. Okay, I'm going to read the chat and then Hannah can go. So Bonnie, I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, but Bonnie said in the chat that micro means small and macro means big. Perfect. All right, Hannah.
I have a question, because from what I've learned, micro is like government decisions, like buying of bonds, increasing and decreasing interest rates, like printing money. But then macro is like long-term debt cycles, the things that actually create depressions, not recessions. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that micro is short-term and the macro is long-term. Oh, okay. So I haven't actually I've never learned it from that perspective, but yes, micro is small or something in a short amount of time. But I'm not sure if printing money will be micro just because it's affecting the whole economy. But you can definitely be right, but I just haven't learned it yet. Yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think there are many ways to go, and people categorize things in, they could be micro or macro. And during our learning session, we're definitely gonna have debates on what they really belongs to. And even textbooks says different things about different. So nothing is wrong, everything is correct, I think. It really depends on what you think, as long as you learn. In the real world, you start solving economic problems. You don't have to categorize everything in specific micro or macro. But right now, we're just gonna start with small, like things that relate to everyday life that we can actually use. And then after that, we're going to learn macro, the bigger understanding of the whole economy, international economy, international trade, and we're gonna go into that. Yeah, but Hannah, that's a very good point to raise right now. Okay. Next slide. Should we go on the next slide, or does anyone have a question about micro and macro? We can go on, right? Okay. Amy?
Oh, okay. So need and want. These are the primary things that create scarcity, need and wants. So if we were to categorize needs and want, I say need is shelter, food, water,
Both.
clothing. Well, I mean, clothing is a need. Yes, in current economy, it's a need. But back then, or, it wasn't a need, it was a want. People want to appear not naked. Yeah, so it really depends on yourself, but a need essentially clothing, shelter, and food and water. So if you were saying to your parents, I need this computer, I need it for school. Well, what was the reason behind needing this for school? School requiring it. Okay, that makes it a need for you, right? You need it, but then you're not required to buy it because you made the choice of going to school you want to learn. So that leads to the definition that a want is a way of expressing a need. Okay, decision making. So there are two primarily types of decision making, and positive and negative. There are positive and negative economics decision making. So positive economics decisions are taking things for what they are and make decision based on the simple in the moment situation, how things are. I'm gonna give you the definitions first and then, make an example. And then, oh no, not a negative, it's normative. Sorry, Rita, if you, okay, so it's not a negative economic decision. Here, I'll type in the chat, it's normative. A normative economic decision is consider the current situation or need. You consider it, but also consider previous instances and analyze why things are the way they are. What will be the outcome of the choice, how things ought to be or will be soon. So positive is in the moment, in the situation, I'm not considering anything because I have to make the decision. How things are, it is what it is. There's nothing else. But normative, you're considering previous and what's going to happen after, and to analyze why. The essential thing is why things are the way they are. Okay, so right now, a positive decision is I'm thirsty and I need water. That's a positive decision. I am thirsty, so I need water. This is, and the normative would be, I want to go out today after the meeting. I want to go to the mall. That would be a normative decision because I have to consider, what am I going to wear? What am I going to buy? How am I going to convince my parents to let me go out? And what's going to happen after I go to the mall? Am I going to eat dinner over there? Am I going to come back to eat? And, what are my parents going to say if I go out and I haven't finished my homework? So that's a normative economic decision. You have to consider a lot of different aspects.
Okay, and does anyone want to try to relate decision making to need and want, to services and goods, to scarcity? Anyone want to take a risk and try? There's no right or wrong, just jump in.
Okay, so I will try my best. So I would say that decision making leads to needs and positives, because mostly with wants, we think about the future and we think why we need that or why we want that. Usually in our lives, we should say why we want that, because I don't think that many of us is thinking every day about food, about water, if I have enough of that. So I will be talking mostly about want. So that leads to the positive and normative decision making.
Yeah, and after this meeting, you can do some research on the 7 principles, or you don't have to. Next meeting will be on the 7 principles. We'll go over each principle and teach deeply of what each are. And we'll give examples, we'll talk about it. Of course, we'll take turn to teach. Afterwards, everyone will teach 1 principle if you want to, of course. And Amy just sent in the link of the voting. Amy, did you include how you like this type of meeting?
Yes,
That
I included a 1 to 5. So 1 would be I didn't enjoy it, and then 5 would be I loved it. So you can choose one, and then we will adjust our meeting based on your voting next time. If you don't have any questions, see you the Sunday after next.